Thank you so much, viewers, for staying with us today. You're going to be so glad that you joined us on Welcome Home because we have a story for you, a life-changing story. You know how we're always talking about sharing Christ in compelling ways through life-changing stories? Well, that's what we have for you today. And we've been talking about children without hope. And we know from experience, all of us, that the only hope that we have is in Jesus Christ. So you're going to hear that story of hope and redemption today, but you're also going to hear about a ministry that's been around for a long, long time that I have loved, and I know you're going to love hearing about it too. It's called the House of Hope. And Carla Mathis, who is the Director of Marketing and Development, she's here with us today along with her wonderful friend, Tamira McWilliams. So welcome, ladies. I'm so glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a blessing.
Well, it is a blessing to have somebody so beautiful as Tamira, and of course Carla as well, but we love having young people on the program so you can really share your life-changing story. But before we get to your story, Tamira, I want Carla, tell us about the House of Hope and what the history is. It's been around for a long time.
Okay, yes it has. God is faithful. Well, Sarah Trollinger, who was teaching in the Orange County Public School System and also teaching behind bars at the Juvenile Justice Center, just saw the same kids coming in and out and kind of saw it as a revolving door. And so just in her quiet time with the Lord, she was asking, Lord, what can we do about these kids? And he just really put it on her heart and gave her the vision to start a place and call it House of Hope. And so 1985 is when she founded it with 5 friends and $200.
Wow.
And a lot of prayer and just really miracle after miracle and God's faithfulness and goodness throughout the years.
What does it look like today? It certainly isn't just a house anymore.
No, it is not. It is now 10 buildings on, it's 14 buildings on 10 acres. And anyway, it can house up to 30 kids. 12 boys and 18 girls is the full capacity. And then there is a school on campus, Hope Academy. So the kids who come there, who are residents, they live there. So they get life skills training, they get education, and they get prayer ministry and counseling through the counseling department.
What usually brings kids to the House of Hope, Carla?
Oh goodness, so many issues today that are just facing the youth and just what is tearing apart the families. Anything from cutting, bullying, to abuse, to anger, so many things, traumas that the youth go through in today's society, not just from the families, but also just, whether it's in school and the issues that they face in today's society that are just the destructive forces looking to tear down the youth. And so the ministry was founded on Malachi 4:6. That is the mission, turning the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children back to the fathers. And the whole mission is about restoring the teens back to the families. And so the parents do have to go through the program as well.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And there are people that are listening today that have heard of the House of Hope and maybe have not taken the tour. I've been out to your facility. It's in South Orlando. Tell us the address again.
It is 2036 36th Street, and it's right off of Rio Grande. So,
well, you're in a beautiful location, lots of trees, lots of gorgeous buildings, of course, the school. And can anybody come and visit, or are you kind of careful about who comes on campus?
it is a gated campus, so there are typically the people that come, they usually have an appointment of some type.
Right.
But we certainly welcome anyone who wants to come take a tour, who's interested in maybe getting involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah, because you need volunteers, right?
Absolutely. We need lots of volunteers.
That's great.
Volunteers are always needed.
That's great, Carla. Well, I want to hear your story, Tamira. You've been at the House of Hope for how long?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. And you're not even from Central Florida. You're from down where?
Down in Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie. How did you hear about the House of Hope?
I'm not entirely sure. My mom was just looking for a residential program for me that fit her needs and didn't just help me, but help my entire family. Because we all needed healing.
So what was happening in your family that your mother would even think? I have daughters, and I can't imagine what a difficult decision that would be. That shows an enormous amount of love on your mother's part to say, my precious daughter needs a residential center. What was happening?
Well, I was just I had lost interest in anything that would normally interest me. I was really depressed. I wouldn't really do anything. I just kind of laid around. I didn't eat. All I did was sleep, basically.
So there was no substance abuse in your story?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're just in a place where you're depressed, you don't have a purpose in life, your mom sees this problem in you and she calls the House of Hope, right?
Yeah, I was also abused growing up, so my mom was really worried.
And she was wanting to protect you from maybe further abuse. Was there a
Yes,
man
ma'am.
in the house at the time?
My stepdad lived with
Okay.
us, yes. He actually was the complete opposite of anything that I had known growing up. He was a great man of God, and so it was really helpful actually having him in the house.
Okay, so this sense of safety and protection with a stepfather who he's obviously not the abuser, right?
No, ma'am.
Somebody else was abusing you. We don't need to know who, but somebody in your past has abused you, and so your mother wants protection for you, right?
And healing.
And healing. And do you think that that's where the depression came from, having been abused?
Yeah, I was abused growing up, and so that abuse caused me to turn to other people and start looking for fulfillment from them.
Okay.
And my mom was just horrified and really scared because it never lasted. And so every time that it failed, I would just sink deeper. And
So you're talking about maybe relationships with other young boys,
Yes, ma'am.
in particular, and maybe being a little more promiscuous than your mother would have wanted, right?
Yes, also friendships.
Okay.
If my friendships didn't last, I'd just fall apart.
Oh.
So
your mother was in a sort of desperate place. Do you remember how, did she call you, Carla? Does she call the House of Hope? How did
She called House of Hope, and we have staff on hand who will take the calls and do the phone interview.
Okay.
And then from there, after the phone interview, they'll set up the interview with the parent and the teen. And so then they come in at that point, and after the interview, go through the steps necessary in order to come into the program.
So do you remember that first interview where you went to the House of Hope and you got questioned?
yes.
Were you
remember.
okay with leaving your mom and your stepdad and friends and going, I don't know how many, 200 miles away to a place that you didn't know anybody? Were you okay with that?
She had already moved me from my home to live with some relatives
Okay.
up in northern Central Florida area.
Okay, so you're already sort of in the area.
Yeah, so I was already, I was about 2 hours away from here.
Okay.
So I had already been away from home. So when when I was there, I was really destructive, and I did not really do much of anything again. I was still depressed. So she sent me here.
Okay, so you're at the House of Hope. They're asking you all these questions. Are you thinking in your mind, yes, this is some place that I can live and thrive, or no way, I want to go back to, what is your thought process like? This has got to be so tough for a girl. I mean, you were 15 and a half years old at the time. That's tough. Some hard decisions. Do you remember what you were feeling?
Yeah, I was still kind of happy from where I had been before.
Okay.
Because I was working with kids when my mom came and picked me up to bring me to my interview. So I was really happy, but at the same time, I was not, I kind of felt in a way rejected. I felt like, why doesn't she want me?
Right, abandoned.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's working out. Does anybody want me? I would feel that way, Tamara.
Yeah.
How do you get over that? How do you decide from day one, they've decided to take you in, Carla says, doors are open, Sarah Trollinger, doors are open, you're coming here to live at the House of Hope. What are those first few days like there for you?
Well, for me, it was a lot of adjusting. It was going from living with relatives where none of them are my age to living with, I want to say there were about 7 girls who were there when I got
Wow.
there.
In the same house?
Well, we lived in 2 different houses.
Okay.
We had lived in 2 different houses, but we went to school together. And so it was going from no one my age to a lot of
Ready-made
residents.
friends. Now, these girls, though, are all coming from places of maybe abuse or neediness themselves. And so, you know, certainly want to go to them as your confidants, but they also have their own sets of problems. So how do you make friends with people who are really as needy or maybe needier than you are?
It was really hard to do. It was just a matter of finding a balance between being friends and helping each other.
Okay.
So,
did you have a best friend? Was there somebody that you really connected with?
yes, there were a couple people that I really connected with when I first
So
got
how
here.
long, Tamira, did it take you to go from this depressed state that you were in? And did they want to put you on medication? It might have been clinical depression. No medication.
Never put on medication. I stopped taking my ADHD medicine, actually, I want to say 8 days after I got here.
Wow, very good. Is that something that you all kind of work toward, getting kids unmedicated?
We do try. We will, if it's something that is essential, we will look at the evaluation and that sort of thing and take the reports from previous, whether it's psychologists, counselors. So some do continue on medication. Others we try to
Wean them off.
So
did you
over
think she
time.
was clinically depressed and might need medication, or did you recognize that it was something that therapy and counseling and the
yes.
Lord could do?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
so how long does that take? Are you depressed today?
So definitely not.
No, definitely not. I know you have a beautiful face, a beautiful smile on your face.
Yes.
You have Jesus in your heart. Did you have Jesus in your heart during all this other, or when did he become a part of your life?
I want to say that I knew him or knew of him.
You knew him in your
Knew
head.
of him, yes.
But maybe not in your heart.
Yes, that was
Okay.
exactly it.
So how long after you were at the House of Hope do you remember that you wanted this intimate relationship with Jesus?
I want to say it was only a few months.
Okay. Do you remember when things started to turn around for you and you started to realize that, hey, I can become a child of hope?
It was during one of my visitations, actually.
What is a
because,
visitation? What does that mean?
With a family.
Okay.
Yeah,
Your family
it's when
has
you
come
see
to
your
you,
family.
or you're not going back to them
family.
ever. You never go back.
You do go back to them when you get to a certain point in the program. When they
But they're
feel that you're
visiting
ready.
you.
Yes, but
And
they were
what-
visiting me.
This big epiphany, this big light goes on that says, hey, I'm getting better, right?
Yeah, it was something that was said, and I reacted to it a little bit differently than I normally would have.
Oh.
And so I was just kind of shocked at myself. I was like, wow, I didn't flip out. I didn't get angry or blow up. And so it
What
just
was your
kinda-
response? Do you remember?
Yeah, I just kind of stayed quiet. I was hurt, but I didn't say anything to hurt others.
Who is hurting you? Your mom?
Yeah, she didn't realize that she said something
Okay.
that hurt me. And
Yeah,
I
we
just
moms
kind of-
do that. We have it's an innate ability that we have. We don't do it intentionally, I promise.
Yeah, I'm absolutely positive that my mother loves me
Yeah.
dearly. And so I
Right.
don't believe that she did it to hurt me.
Right.
But she said something that was fairly blunt. And I was kind of hurt by it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of stayed quiet. Whereas normally I would have reacted and said something completely rude and disrespectful. I just kind of,
Good for you. I'm so proud of you.
yeah.
So now, what do you anticipate, Tamira, for your future? Do you see going back home? Or are you going to stay at the House of Hope until you graduate from high school? Or what are your plans?
Well, when I graduate House of Hope, because there is a
Kind of a time limit?
yeah, no, it's not a time limit. It's like you have to work your way through the
Oh,
program.
okay.
So
Phases.
Yeah.
There's certain
Phases.
phases that they
Okay.
have to go through before
when
they
you get a
graduate
certain
the
amount of
program.
healing,
Right.
you get to the next phase.
Okay.
And so when you start reflecting certain characteristics,
Ah,
they allow you to move to the next phase.
nice.
Yes.
So how
it's
far along are
great.
you?
I'm pretty far along, I would say. Well,
About
pretty
halfway.
decently. Yeah.
About halfway?
halfway.
About
Okay.
halfway.
Good. So when is there a limitation after she turns 18? Does she have to leave, or what happens?
Unfortunately, when the kids turn, if the kids are still in the program come 18, because we can only go through 17. So once they turn 18, then at that point, they would have to return
Okay.
home.
Okay.
And what we will try to do, though, is continue the counseling part of it. So they may return home, but we would look at if the family is interested and willing to once a week or however many times come back and continue the
good.
counseling part.
How do you counsel someone, Carla, who has been abused, and we haven't talked about whether it's sexual abuse or physical abuse or emotional or verbal, whatever. How do you counsel somebody and get them past that devastation, that feeling of worthlessness to, hey, I am a child of God?
Most of it is through prayer. I would say 99.9%, if not 100%, is through prayer. All of it is done prayer-based, and it's on the love of Jesus Christ. So the people there who are in that role, they go into every session with the teens and or the parents, obviously, really prayed up and just seeking the Lord for guidance. At the same time, they will bring, any kind of professional experience into it as well. So sometimes it takes longer than other times, depending on the situation and that sort of thing. But, each situation is different. What works for one teen may not work for another teen. So it's very specific and geared for that individual as well as for the family. But a lot of it is prayer, inner healing, that sort of thing.
So when you finish at the House of Hope, you will be a high school graduate, right?
I'll be a senior in high school.
You'll be a senior in high school when you're finished. All right, so you'll probably go back home to your mom and finish high school in Port St. Lucie?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, do you anticipate that you can be successful without this incredible place, or are you looking forward to them helping you along the way? What are any fears or doubts, or how are you feeling, Tamira?
Well, knowing Miss Sarah and the people that are here, I'm sure that they would not let me go if I wasn't ready.
Okay.
So I'm not concerned about not being ready.
You'll do it. I know that you'll be able to do it. God is so faithful.
But I can always reach out, so that's
Right.
great.
And what do you think is the greatest thing that you've received so far from them, as far as some of maybe your skills or your emotional well-being or maybe even your spiritual well-being? What's the biggest thing you've gotten from it?
Well, I definitely say I have a lot more peace than I did when I got here. I was actually really angry at everything when I got here, and I figured out ways to cope with that anger and just to release it and to forgive.
How do you do that? How do you cope?
Well, working out helps, but also just giving it up to the Lord. It's the only really the only way that works. It's the only surefire way to get through.
Right. So you're confident that you're going to be okay, which I know you're going to be okay. You've got a lot ahead of you. You're just a beautiful girl, an intelligent girl, well-spoken young lady. How about you, Carla? With people like Tamira, there are other stories out there that at the House of Hope that they can't all be success stories. You brought me a success story. What happens with the ones that maybe are not?
Well, one of the things that we at House of Hope, we want to make sure everyone knows about the love of Jesus Christ. And if the seed is planted, then we continue to pray for those individuals and just trust the Holy Spirit.
Good.
And it's been, just in my experience in the short time there, the number of kids who have just shown up on campus or have sent an email to Sarah, who maybe, according to others, would not have been, quote, a success story, but when they came, they would say, I just want to say thank you. And this was to Sarah.
Wow.
And to Sandy as well, saying thank you so much. When I left here, I ended up here, but everything I learned from here, and now I'm on the right track. So, those that maybe don't, a lot of times we don't hear about those. We're always open to talking to them, and we do receive a lot of phone calls, and we'll always extend an arm, a hand, whatever, a heart to help them in any way we can. But ultimately, if they know about the love of Jesus, we're trusting for that seed to take root.
Well, and two, when you know the love of Jesus, we want somebody to blame. I mean, it'd be easy, Tamira, for you to say, hey, that's not my fault I'm like I am. Look what I came from. I was abused, or whatever the situation is, or I turned to drugs because of something, and blaming other people. I'm sure that you have a wonderful way of helping children to be able to own up to, I'm responsible for who I am. I can't help what happened to me, but I can make a choice to move on in life.
Yes, and we do try to teach the kids, this may have happened to you, and it may not have been your fault, but at the same time, decisions you made may have gotten you to a certain point. So what decisions can you make in the future that will prevent these things from happening?
Well said, very well said. Well, we're almost out of time. If you, Tamir, I'm going to ask you one more question. If you were to speak to somebody out there today, might be a child, a teenager, a young girl, or a young guy, what advice would you give them if they're facing their own set of challenges, whether it's sexual abuse or drug abuse or depression, cutting, whatever the situation is? What would you tell that person today?
Just to look to somebody who you know is filled with the Holy Spirit and is filled with the love of Jesus Christ, and just to ask them for counsel and just to pray, just to find that peace that you can only find in Christ.
That's right. And we know that there's hope, right? Hope in Christ. And you are a child of God's. You're a beautiful young woman and a child of hope. So thank you for being so transparent and sharing your story with us here today, Tamira McWilliams and precious Carla Mathis. Thank you, Director of Development and Marketing there at the House of Hope. If you want more information about this incredible place of refuge and hope, you can go to the website that's on your screen, or give them a call and take a tour at some point. You won't be sorry. It is an incredible place, and these young women have really told their beautiful stories for us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay with us, because we've got more coming up.